Hello everyone and welcome back to TowerGate. It is Monday, day 264. Don't know what date it is, but it doesn't matter. It's about the end of November, isn't it? And it's day 264 of TowerGate. That's all we care about. And it's Monday. We definitely care about that. Alrighty then. Well, because it is Monday, you know what it's time for? Dumbass of the Week. Let's get started right there. Well, I'm sure that this week's winner of Dumbass of the Week shouldn't be too much of a surprise to many of you who've been keeping up with some of the silliness going on this past week, particularly the silliness going on with this reporter, April Ryan. I'm sure most of you know what I'm talking about. Basically, April Ryan got into a nasty little exchange with Sarah Huckabee Sanders, who's the press spokesman for the Trump administration, over whether or not she actually baked a chocolate pecan pie. April Ryan, being the lowlife that she is, decided to have a fight over whether or not that was just a picture that Sarah Huckabee got off of Google Images, or whether or not it was actually a real pecan pie that she actually did bake for her family on Thanksgiving. And of course, Sarah Huckabee saying, yes, I actually made that pecan pie. It was, So April Ryan comes back and decides to start a Twitter fight where she's suggesting that she won't believe it unless she sees a picture of Sarah Huckabee making the pecan pie, seeing the pecan pie on the Thanksgiving Day table, and seeing people sitting around the Thanksgiving Day table eating the chocolate pecan pie prepared by Sarah Huckabee Sanders. Now, April Ryan, I generally just completely ignore her because I think she's from APR or American Public Radio or something like that, but she is literally one of the absolute dumbest reporters that you'll see there in the press conferences. Question after question that she asks, very, very dumb questions because she's a very dumb person. But more than that, and the reason she's the dumbass of the week, not just a dumbass of the week, but the asshole of the week as well, because she always asks these really personal, nasty attack questions. She's the one that suggested that Trump and his administration were racist and supporters of the KKK and white supremacists. She's one of those people that won't get off of that. And she's constantly suggesting that. And Sarah Sanders has shot her down quite a few times and shut her up a few times. But I'm just personally sick of it. Sick of this woman. She should have her press pass revoked. She shouldn't even be allowed in the press conference because she really doesn't ask any questions that are of real, importance. They're of no real value to anybody. They're always questions that are these. They're not even really questions as much as they are assertions to some ridiculous fact, which is always something to point to Sarah Huckabee or Trump or one of the people in the administration being a racist, being a bigot, being a sexual deviant or whatever, when it's all of her friends that are guilty of all of these things. And she's just a very nasty, nasty person. And you would think that on Thanksgiving Day, when Sarah Huckabee, before the press conference, when she came out, she was in a good mood, she was smiling, she was going to just take a day off, I guess, from the real hardcore stuff and just have some fun with the reporters and just have kind of a light day. But no, April Ryan wouldn't let that happen. And she just wouldn't let the thing die. She had to go out on Twitter and start a Twitter war, questioning whether or not, and what is she really getting at by questioning whether or not Sarah Huckabee Sanders, what, does she know how to make a chocolate pecan pie? Is she just lying about it because she wants to lie about it or what have you? It was just a real personal stick in the knife and twist it sort of thing, and she won't get off of it. So that's why I have selected her as the dumbass of the week. But I'm going to go one stage farther on this myself because I'm just sick of her. Now, I wish that I was the press secretary for just one day. In fact, about 5 minutes, because that's probably all I would last. I would be fired after 5 minutes. Now, me and Trump would both be laughing as he walked me out the door and took my security pass, and he'd be patting me on the back. I may only get one question asked, but I would be asking that question of April Ryan just so I could chew her up when she answered, because I know exactly what she's going to ask. Something stupid. So if I were to put myself now in that position, and I were the press secretary on that day before Thanksgiving, and I was asked, or the day after Thanksgiving, and I was asked whether or not I made the pecan pie. I think that my response might have gone something like this. I probably would have looked back at April Ryan, and I would have said something like, so you don't believe I can make a chocolate pecan pie, or you don't believe I made that? You think that was a fake pic, right? Okay. Well, I'll tell you what, April, since we're asking personal questions here and getting down in the mud like that, let me go ahead and ask you a personal question, April. Are you a silverback? Are you a silverback? Because you look an awful lot like one. You know, in fact, you have a hell of a lot of resemblance to Harambe. That's right, Harambe. Are you, April? Are you Harambe's sister? Are you a silverback? I don't believe you. I think that you need to post a pic on Twitter and prove that you're not Harambe's sister. Prove to me that you're not a silverback, because the last time I checked a pic, and I encourage all of you to go out on Google and type in April Ryan into Google search, click on images, and take a look at some pics. Take a look at that face. Study it very closely, and you tell me, doesn't she look very much like a silverback? On top of that, why don't you Google up Harambe and take a very close look at his pic? And then take a look at the two pics side by side. I think that you will see a striking resemblance between April Ryan and Harambe. I think she's a silverback. And I'm going to keep thinking she's a silverback until she actually proves, by posting some Twitter pics, that she's not. I want to see a pic of her back. I want to see if there's a silver stripe down her back, because she looks an awful lot to me like Harambe's sister. She looks like a silverback. There. That's how I would have dealt with April Ryan's question. And that's why I would last about 5 minutes in one question as the press secretary. Now, do I feel bad about making the comparison between April Ryan and the silverback? No. Do I care what people think? No. Do I know what you're all thinking? Yes. Do I give a shit? No. There we go. That's how I feel. Can be honest with you. I always have been before. So, is April Ryan a silverback? I'll leave that up to you all to take a look at Google Images, compare the pics, look closely at that face. She's got the face of a silverback. Very, very close. Take a look and you tell me what you think. Next, John Conyers is stepping down as the ranking Democrat at the House Judiciary Committee. Now, this is not unusual that he's stepping down as the ranking Democrat of the House Judiciary Committee. What is strange is that he's not just resigning, because normally when you have a ranking position in Congress and you're forced to step down because of something like this, they just usually leave altogether. They usually don't accept a demotion. They usually don't go from a leadership position in one of the two houses and then step back into being just a normal congressman or senator anymore. They normally just take all their cards and go home. But Conyers is announcing he's stepping down as the ranking Democrat on the House Judiciary Committee, but it appears that he's going to stick around to be a member of Congress. He is the longest serving member of Congress, by the way. And, you know, his lawyer came out and made a second statement being even more forceful. And really, depending on how you want to take that statement that his lawyer made, the way I took it, when he said that, yeah, there's a lot of people who have had allegations made against them, the way I took that was a threat to other members. Hey, don't push me. Don't push me out of this job, because I know about all of you. And if you push me out, if you force me out, I'm taking all you down with me. That is really what I took from that, especially the second statement by his attorney. And this is very rare. Normally, when the swamp monsters get cornered and they are forced to go, they go away quietly and they don't try to take other people down with them. First of all, it's kind of dangerous, because then you are turning on all those people, and they are still in a position of power, and they can still do some pretty nasty things to you. They can come after you after you're gone, and you will be gone if they want you gone. So I don't know what exactly Conyers, what game he's playing here, whether he's trying to scare other members of Congress into protecting and covering up for him, or if that was just some offhanded comment that his attorney made and wasn't thinking clearly, or whatever. I really don't know. But the fact that he is stepping down but not leaving the Congress tells me that he does want to hold on to his position, and he's essentially threatening other members of Congress. Hey, I'm stepping down from the seat to take the heat off of you, but I'm not leaving Congress. And if you push me, I've got the goods on all of you. So we'll just have to follow that and see where that goes. And that's the situation that a lot of these people find themselves in. Remember, these swamp monsters cover for each other. They all know that they're all involved in all sorts of criminal and unethical behavior, and they do a lot of things that they keep secrets among themselves. They protect each other. They don't throw each other under the bus unless one of them does something really stupid and it can't be defended, in which case there's sort of this idea in Washington, hey, if you go out there and screw up really big, we, the party, and the other people are bigger than you, and you have to accept the fact that you screwed up and you walk away and you keep your mouth shut. Just like in the mob, just like in the mafia. When you screw up, you take the price. You go to jail, you keep your mouth shut, you pay the price for the stupid mistake you made. You don't take everybody down with you. But it appears that Mr. Conyers hasn't watched Goodfellas. I would highly recommend Mr. Conyers and your attorney watch Goodfellas. You might learn something. Pay particular attention to the character Joe Pesci plays. Pay particular attention to the character that De Niro plays and see what happens to them. And we'll not even talk about Freddie what's-his-name and the rest. Just watch Goodfellas, Mr. Conyers, and I think you might get a little more sense, a little more intelligence about how to go about handling your situation. You should go away quietly, is what you should do, Mr. Conyers, altogether. And Franken Groper will not be far behind. Franken Groper is playing the same game. He, too, knows a lot of things. And that's possibly the game he's playing. Hey, I have a lot of dirt on all of you. If you don't stand up for me, I just might have to say something. But believe me, the Congress, the swamp, it's a mafia. And believe me, they don't like it when you cross them. When you become a liability to the family, they expect you to take your comeuppance and keep your mouth shut. They don't expect you to take people down with you. And there's a price to be paid if you do. Keep watching. Well, another swamp creature has been pulled from the swamp. When Trump said he was going to drain the swamp, I wasn't exactly sure how he was going to do it, but now we're seeing he's doing it every way that you could possibly do it. And so we have another swamp creature. This time it's another Democrat. His name is Rob Brady. He's a representative from some state. I have no idea which one, but it appears that he's now being investigated for a conspiracy where he's alleged to have paid his primary opponent to drop out of the primary. The court documents have been filed, and Brady will probably be gone by the end of the week. This is a fairly serious crime. This one would get him some jail time. Yeah, paying your opponent to drop out of the race, and then covering that up, and covering up the money transfer, that would be probably about a half a dozen different federal crimes, which he's probably guilty of. So another swamp creature on his way out of the swamp. Thank you, President Trump. Jim Jordan has recently given a little statement, and he's giving advice to his fellow GOP Republicans, telling them, do not mess with the voters. 2018 will be a watershed event if you do. Exactly what I've been saying. And he laid out some very good examples. He laid out the example of Eric Cantor, who was the number 3 man, most powerful Republican. No one thought he would lose his race. No one thought you could take down Eric Cantor. He was too powerful, too connected to too many people. But we saw what happened, and a very, very good man replaced him, by the way. The guy's name is Dave Bratt. Very, very solid dude. Very good man. And that's who took and knocked Cantor out. And he didn't have a lot of money behind him either. And this is what I've been telling you all for the past 6 months now. I've been saying this since the middle of the summer. And I think the die is already cast. The biggest story of the 2018 elections that will occur about a year from now will be how many establishment Republicans and Democrats are knocked out of their seats. It's going to be a watershed event for incumbents. Whether you're Democrat or Republican, on the Democratic side, if you are not a hardcore progressive who supported Bernie Sanders, your political future is in jeopardy. If you are a Republican who has been anti-Trump and blocking the Trump agenda, your future is very uncertain. And these are the two groups they're going to pay. You won't get them all, but I guarantee that you'll see quite a few of these establishment Republicans and corporate Democrats knocked out in 2018. And this is what Jim Jordan is warning them of. He won't be one of them. Jim Jordan's been a good man. Cokie Roberts. Don't know how many of you are familiar with Cokie Roberts. She's an Inside the Beltway reporter, been around forever. Her daddy was a big shot in D.C. He was killed in a plane crash many, many years ago. She became a young Washington reporter and was a regular on ABC's This Week with David Brinkley. Once Brinkley passed on and George Stephanopoulos took over, she continues to make fairly regular appearances on the show. So she's on this past Sunday, and she makes the argument as they're talking about the Roy Moore situation, and she's claiming that, well, Roy Moore probably won't be defeated because that's a bunch of Republicans down there in the South. They're dumber than hell, a bunch of hicks, don't know any better, and they don't have any problem with what he did, probably marrying. Hey, they married 11-year-old girls down there in Alabama all the time, those backward country-ass hicks, rednecks. That's basically Cokie Roberts, who grew up in Washington, D.C., around politicians and political people her life. This is all she knows. And why they call her Cokie, I don't really know, but I always assumed it was because she's got a nose like this, which I guess would have been exactly the right type of nose that you would have wanted if you were a heavy snorter of cocaine. A heavy snorter of cocaine. And my guess is a lot of people look and say, damn, Cokie, what a nose. I bet you can snort a ball. And so my guess is that Cokie probably has snorted a lot of coke, and maybe that's how she got the nickname. She's definitely got a nose on her like this. It's sort of a funnel. It would serve as a good funnel for some coke if you could funnel cocaine. I funneled beer, never funneled cocaine, I got to be honest with you. But nor would I be interested in funneling cocaine. But it looks like Cokie Roberts may have funneled quite a bit of cocaine in her time. But basically, she gets on Sunday morning with George Stephanopoulos, and she says that, and she is claiming that these lower class women excuse Roy Moore because they're used to being raped. Women in Alabama. Yeah, I love them Alabama jokes. We got them jokes here too, you know, the Kentucky jokes. People here in Ohio like to say, what do girls from Kentucky put behind their ears to pick up men? Their legs. It's the same type of redneck humor. She probably bought one of them little redneck humor books and memorized it or something and pulled that one out of her ass or out of that snoot that's mounted upon her skull, which we call a nose. Most people. Hers is upside down and kind of weird. But I don't know. Maybe she was impregnated by Porky Pig. I don't know. Or her mother was impregnated by Porky Pig. I don't know. But she's got his nose. Maybe she should go have a talk with April Ryan and they can get together. Maybe they can put together an amusement park based on Porky Pig and Harambe. That would be a good ride. Maybe we can mix them two together and we can have Harambe the Silverback Porker or something. I don't know, but the two really ought to get together because they're equally stupid. She easily could have been Dumbass of the Week. Easily. Keep at it, Cokie. Maybe I'll get to you, girl. Long-time Democratic Party insider Phil Singer, said Friday that the party's stable of potential 2020 candidates are not very impressive. No shit. A bunch of Celine Dion's, but no Beatles. No Beatles. Obviously, this guy grew up in the 60s or 50s or something. The Beatles are a pretty old act. Half of them are dead. The other half of them are fairly, well, brain dead. Not that I didn't love the Beatles, because I did. And do. Still listen to the Beatles. Love the Beatles. Celine Dion, not so much. But yeah, I can see the comparison, Celine Dion to Beatles. Yeah, no comparison there. But I understand where he's coming from. And the fact of the matter is that if you look at the polls, every time they do them, Bernie Sanders is still the most popular Democrat in the Democratic Party. And none of the corporate Democrats that they try to throw out there, none of them appeal to the voters. And this is why they're going to get their asses kicked. It's why I say the Republicans are absolutely horrible. But the only thing they have going for them is that the Democrats are actually worse. This is this is hard to believe, but this is the truth. But yeah, he is true. Bernie is still the most popular Democrat, and he's a progressive or a communist, in my opinion. And the corporate Democrat Party is not going to embrace him because he doesn't like corporate governance and corporatism and things like that. And their whole existence is based on corporatism. So they have a big problem. I've been saying this for months and months and months, and he's not the only Democrat, and many other Democrats agree. They're trying to pull the two sides together, but it is not going to happen, my friends. It is not going to happen. I know some progressives. Believe me, they hate the rotten Reverend Clinton, Nancy Pelosi, Tom Perez, Debbie Wasserman, Blabbermouth Schultz. They hate these people worse than they hate Trump. And that's saying something. Jimmy Dore, watch his show. He hates Hillary Rotten Clinton worse than he hates Trump. He'll tell you that. In 2010, Bill Clinton met with Putin. We all know that. And in July 2010, a year later, 10 Russian agents who were arrested on espionage charges were released by Obama, the Obama administration, without charges and given a hero's welcome back in Russia. Now, this is the trip where Slick Willie got the 500,000 large from those Russian banks and Russian energy companies for that 1 hour speech. So what did Slick Willie get from Putin? The Clinton Foundation got $145 million donated. The Slick Willie got 500 large. And Putin got 20% of America's uranium, and he got his 10 espionage agents back. Just another thing to throw into the mix about all of this. Now, it is very common for Russia and the United States, as they have over the many years, to have prisoner exchanges where every 10 years or so they'll get together and say, yeah, you know, we've got a collection of your guys over here in jail. Like, we got like 30 or 40 of your guys, and you got like 20 or 30 of our guys. There's a couple of those guys that you got we would really like to get back, and we know we got a couple of yours you would really like to get back. So what do you say we arrange a little prisoner swap? Now, this is done about every 5 to 10 years by the United States and the Russians. We've been doing it all the way back since the old days of the Soviet Union and the Cold War and all that. Prisoner exchanges. But normally you get something in return. You don't just cut loose 10 guys who are arrested on espionage charges and get nothing in return. I haven't heard, nor has anyone else heard, what we got in return. That's a very good question that a lot of people are starting to ask now that they know about this little deal. And normally those deals are arranged by who? The State Department. And who was head of the State Department when Slick Willie was paying a personal visit to Putin at his home and discussing various things that resulted in Clinton getting a $500,000 payday for a 1 hour speech, $148,000 donated to the Clinton Foundation, and Putin getting 20% of America's uranium, as well as getting 10 of his espionage agents back in Russia and greeted as heroes. Who was it that was head of the State Department when all that was going on? The rotten Reverend Clinton. That's who. More questions. It just raises more questions. They never end, do they? What was going on in that deal? I already told you that look for a new term to come up this week that you've probably heard before, but it's been in the background. The Clinton Global Initiative. I'm telling you, the Clinton Global Initiative is another one of the Clintons' phony charities where there was a lot of things going on and a lot of money being moved around. And I suspect that if they dig into the Clinton Global Initiative, as I understand some people are, they are going to find that there's much more to be learned about what happened in this Uranium One deal, much more to learn about what this prisoner release may have had to do with it. And you got to wonder, what did Obama get out of all this? What did Obama get out of all of this? We know what the Clintons got. We know what Putin got. What did Obama get? Because it's his ass that's on the line for all this. It surely is. I mean, the Secretary of State works for him. Now, maybe he was just busy playing basketball and video games and smoking crack or something, but in the meantime, the rotten Reverend Clinton was cutting deals. And you got to wonder how much of this Obama knew about or even cared about. TheHill.com. Time is running out on Mueller. The GOP members are hearing from voters back home on why Mueller, Uncle Bob, is still the special counsel, despite his conflicts of interest. Yeah, what this story is talking about is that members do come back to their districts during holidays, especially Thanksgiving, where they find a lot of messages. They also find a lot of people, sometimes waiting at their offices to talk with them. They also sometimes will have a little town hall while they're back in town. And what we're learning is that Republican congressmen all over the country are going back to their districts over the Thanksgiving Day weekend, and they are being hammered by their constituents about why in the world Mueller is still running this investigation, based on the fact that we all know that he was an integral part of the Uranium One deal. He was the FBI director at the beginning of all this, who knew about everything that was going on but failed to bring it to the attention of the Congress or the American people. He is up to his eyeballs in it. We also know about a lot of other things that he's been involved in over the years. He's the one that turned loose the dancing Israelis. He is the one who hand-delivered uranium on a tarmac for the rotten Reverend Clinton as part of that uranium deal. He is the one also who completely botched the investigation, or covered up the investigation into the anthrax that killed 5 people during the Bush years. Of course, we know where that anthrax came from. They've already traced it back. We know where it came from. It came from a lab that makes anthrax for the military. That's who it came from in Maryland. That's where it came from. Mueller was not able to get to the bottom of any of that. Shouldn't have been very hard. Of course, the main guy who was responsible running that particular little group of people who created that anthrax came up dead. I wonder if Bob knows anything about that. You think Uncle Bob had anything to do with the death of the PhD guy there at the Army lab where they made the anthrax, turning up dead? Do you think he knows anything about that? I don't know. But maybe we should ask. How about letting those dancing Israelis go? That was quite the move, wasn't it? Oh, Bob Mueller, Uncle Bob, is up to his eyeballs in some bullshit. Yes, he is. And a lot of people are very pissed, and they're wanting to know why he's still around. Well, I'll be honest with you. He knows that time is running out on him. That's why he's kind of winding his investigation down. I expect he won't be at it much longer, and he'll walk out the door and drop about 30, 40 indictments on a bunch of people for various things to stir up the nest. But one thing's for sure, Uncle Bob is probably going to have his day on the hot seat, and he's going to have a lot of explaining to do about why he covered up the Uranium One deal. He knows it's coming. He knows it's coming. And the guy who appointed him, Mr. Rosenstein, is up to his eyeballs in that as well, along with Mr. McCabe. They're all up to their eyeballs in that. So yes, people are pretty ticked off. It's obviously something that's on a lot of people's mind, and they are now putting a lot of pressure on members of Congress. So you can expect when they come back on Monday after their Thanksgiving recess that they're going to go ahead and step up their measures to force Mueller out sooner rather than later. And he knows it's coming. And he also knows what else is coming as well. He and his buddy, Comey, his butt buddy, they're going to have to answer a lot of questions here in the weeks to come. The clock is ticking down on the NSA surveillance powers. The Section 702 of the FISA Act expires at the end of the year. Will Twitch McConnell and Paul Ryan try to jam it through on the down low when we're not looking? What price will be paid if they do or do not? If you remember, back in the summer, I was telling you that there was a lot of members of Congress, Lindsey Graham, Jim Jordan, Trey Gowdy, several others who were talking awfully tough, saying that if they did not get the answers they were looking for, if they did not get to the bottom of all that surveillance that was going on during the 2016 campaign, if they do not get the answers to the questions about the dossier and whether it was the reason that they got the FISA warrant, if they don't get to the bottom of a lot of these unmaskings and things and such, that if they didn't get the answers to a lot of these questions, a lot of these guys were saying that they would not vote at the end of the year to continue Section 702 of the FISA Act, which is what allows them to conduct all this surveillance with limited amounts of evidence. And as we can see, if the dossier was something that they went along with and authorized surveillance based on the dossier, they do have some very big problems. But as I told you back in the summer, when it actually comes to the end of the year and they actually have to cast that vote or deny that vote, what are they going to do? Are they going to back up all that tough talk? Well, I'll tell you, there is a pretty good group of Republicans and Democrats. I'm not sure how many they got, if they have enough votes to kill it, but there are quite a group that have joined together of Republicans and Democrats that want to let that Section 02 of the FISA Act expire. There was a group that put together a plan that included 5 things to try to reform it and make it better and fix some of the problems with it. But as I understand, they were never able to get the votes to even get that out of committee. So it's stuck in committee. Now maybe they'll try to grind it out and get it out of committee before the end of the year. But on December 31st of 2017, Section 702 of the FISA Act will expire unless they revote and reauthorize it. And right now, there's a lot of guys who's on the line saying that they wouldn't do it unless they got to the bottom of everything, and we're nowhere near the bottom of everything. The FBI, the Justice Department, the Deep State, they're still fighting everything. They're not coming clean. I wonder how it's going to go. Susan Sarandon was recently giving a speech out in Los Angeles, and she's taking a lot of heat for it, and she was stating that it wouldn't be much better with Hillary as president, telling a bunch of Democrats that who were complaining about Trump, and she was saying, hey, with Hillary in there, it wouldn't be any better. I don't think she's, saying she loves Trump, but she's making the point that Hillary, in fact, she even said in that same speech, she said Hillary Clinton was very, very dangerous. And I think she was talking about the Rotten Reverend's threats to going to war with Iran or Russia and having a no-fly zone in Russia, which would lead to a very major nuclear chicken game of standoff, or a game of nuclear chicken, which would be a nuclear standoff between us and the Russians, is what that would have led to. We now have Barbara Murkowski, who was one of the votes that shot down the repeal of Obamacare, and she's obviously felt the heat from her voters, and so now she's one of those 8 people who were thought may vote against the Senate tax reform bill, which includes a provision to essentially eliminate Obamacare by repealing the individual mandate. But she is now saying that she would back the repeal of Obamacare, the individual mandate, in a way to boost this tax reform bill. So she apparently got the message. So 8 of the ones we thought might not participate, that might try to kill the bill, looks like one of them has backed out and might be joining on the right team, because she knows that if she doesn't, her ass is grass. Of course, we have Pelosi still defending Conyers. Of course, she was defending Slick Willie all back in the 90s. So Madam Botox is clueless. She's out of touch with the reality. Even people in her own group, she's out of touch with. And of course, we know that Merkel's reforms in Germany have been rejected by the voters. She has about a month to figure it out, and we could finally be seeing the end of Angela Merkel and her disastrous rule over Germany. Finally, Jeff Flake says he will oppose tax reform bill to spite Trump, and because he doesn't have to face the voters anymore. Well, there you go. Alrighty. Thank you so much for tuning in. It's been TowerGate. I'll be back tomorrow. Thanks a lot, guys. Bye.